chapters 1 through 7 of Genesis from the Holy Bible in Modern English. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Mark Penfold. The Holy Bible in Modern English, translated by Ferrar Fenton. Genesis, chapters 1 through 7. Chapter 1. By periods, God created that which produced the solar systems, then that which produced the earth. But the earth was unorganized and empty, and darkness covered its convulsed surface, while the breath of God rocked the surface of its waters. God then said, "Let there be light!" And light came. And God gazed upon that beautiful light, and God divided the light from the darkness. And to the light God gave the name of day, and to the darkness he gave the name of night. This was the close and the dawn of the first age. God also said, "Let there be an expanse between the waters, and let it be a division between the waters and the waters." And God made the expanse, and it divided the waters which were below the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse. And that was done. And God named the expanse the heavens. This was the close and the dawn of the second age. God then commanded, "Let the waters below the heavens be collected in one place, and let dry land appear." And that was done. And God named the dry land earth, and the accumulated waters he named seas. And God admired their beauty. God then said, "Let the earth produce seed-bearing vegetation, as well as fruit trees according to their several species, capable of reproduction upon the earth." And that was done. The earth produced the seed-bearing herbage according to every species, as well as the different species of reproductive fruit trees. And God saw that they were good. This was the close and the dawn of the third age. God further said, "Let reflectors appear in the expanse of the heavens, for a division between the day and the night, and let them serve to mark seasons, periods, and years, and let them also illuminate the expanse of the skies, so as to reflect their light upon the earth." And that was done. God had made two large luminaries, the larger one to control the day, and the smaller one to control the night, accompanied by the stars. And God had fixed them in the heavenly expanse, so as to illuminate the earth, to control the day and to control the night, and to mark the division between the light and the darkness. And God saw they were beautiful. This was the close and the dawn of the fourth age. God then said, "Let the waters be swarming with animal life, and let birds fly in the expanse of the skies above the earth." God accordingly produced the monsters of the deep, and the waters swarmed with every species of reptile, and also produced every species of flying bird. And God admired their beauty. And God, in giving them his blessing, said, "Be fruitful and multiply, so as to fill the waters of the deep, and also let the birds multiply upon the earth." This was the close and the dawn of the fifth age. God then said, "Let the earth produce animal life according to its species, in quadrupeds, reptiles, and all wild animals answering to their species." And that was done. God accordingly made the various species of the animals of the earth, as well as the several species of quadrupeds, and all the different species of reptiles, and God admired their beauty. God then said, "Let us make men under our shadow, as our representatives, and subject to them the fish of the waters, and the birds of the sky, and the quadrupeds, as well as the whole of the earth, and every reptile that creeps upon it." So God created men under his own shadow, creating them in the shadow of God, and constituting them male and female. God then gave them his blessing. And God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply so as to fill the earth and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, and the birds of the skies, and over every living animal that moves upon the earth." God also said, "See, I have given you for food every fruit and grain-bearing plant upon the surface of the whole earth, as well as fruit and seed-bearing trees and all vegetation, so that they may be food for you, and for every animal of the earth, and for every bird of the skies, and for every reptile upon the earth which possesses the life of animals." And it was done. And God gazed upon all that He had made, and it was very beautiful. Thus the close came, and the dawn came of the sixth age. Chapter 2. Thus the whole host of the heavens as well as the earth were completed. And God rested at the seventh age from all the works which He had made. Therefore God blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, because He then rested from all the work which God had arranged to do. These were the productions for the heavens and the earth during their creation at the period of their organization by the Lord God of both the earth and heavens. And of every plant of the field before it was upon the earth, and every herb of the field before He caused it to grow, even before the ever-living God had scattered them upon the earth, and man existed not to cultivate the earth. A vapor then rose up from the earth and saturated the whole surface of the ground. The ever-living God afterwards formed man from the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the life of animals. But man became a life-containing soul. The ever-living God then planted a garden in Eden, in the east, and there He placed the man whom He had formed. And out of the ground the ever-living God caused to grow all the trees that were beautiful and good for food, as well as the tree of lives in the center of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. A lake also sprang up in Eden to supply the garden with water, and from there it divided and became 4 sources. The name of the first is Pishon, and flows along the land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is pure. There are also bdellium and the onyx. And the second river is Gihon. It flows along all the land of Cush. The name of the third river is Hiddekel, which flows through the east of Ashur. And the fourth river is the Phrath. The ever-living God then took the man and placed him in the Garden of Eden for the purpose of cultivating and taking care of it. And the Lord God instructed the man, saying, "For food you may eat of the whole of the trees of the garden, but from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, because in the day you eat from it, dying you shall die." The ever-living God also said, "It is not good for the man to be in solitude. I will make a comforter to live with him." Therefore the ever-living God, who had formed out of the ground every animal of the field, as well as every bird of the skies, took them to the man to see what he would name them. And whatever the man with the living soul named them, that was their name. So the man gave names to all the quadrupeds, and all the birds of the skies, and to all the wild animals. But it was no comfort for the man to be with them. So the ever-living God threw the man into a stupor, and he slept. And taking one of his ribs, He closed up the flesh in its place. And from the rib which the ever-living God had taken out of the man, He constructed a woman, and brought her to the man. And the man said, "This form is bone of my own bone, and flesh of my own flesh. This shall be named woman, because she was taken from man. Man shall therefore leave his father and his mother, and shall unite with his wife, and they shall be one body. And they were naked, the man and his wife, but they were not ashamed." Chapter 3. Now the serpent was more impudent than any of the wild animals of the field which the ever-living God had made. So he asked the woman, "Is it true that God has said you may not eat of every tree of the garden?" And the woman replied to the serpent, "We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the middle of the garden, God has said, 'Do not eat of it, and do not even touch it, lest you die.'" But the serpent answered the woman, "You will not die. But God knows that at the time you eat of it, your eyes will then be opened, and you will be like God, acquainted with both good and evil. So the woman, perceiving that the tree was good for food, and beautiful to the eyes, and a tree stimulating to the intellect, she took some of its fruit and ate it, and gave some to her husband with her, and he also ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they became aware that they were naked. They accordingly joined fig leaves together, and made aprons for themselves. They then heard the sound of the ever-living God moving in the garden in the breeze of the day. And the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. But the ever-living God called to the man, saying, "Where are you?" And he replied, "I heard your sound in the garden, and perceiving that I was naked, I hid myself." Then he asked, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree of which I commanded that you should not eat?" And the man replied, The woman whom you gave to me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate it." "Why did you do that?" the Lord God asked the woman. And the woman answered, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate it." The ever-living God accordingly said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, you shall be accursed more than all the cattle, and more than all the wild beasts of the field. You shall crawl upon your belly, and eat dust all the days of your life. I will also cause antagonism between you and the woman, and between your progeny and her progeny. He shall wound your head, and you shall wound his heel." But to the woman he said, "I will increase your sorrows and your joys. You shall give birth to children with pain, but your love shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you." Then to Adam he said, "Because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, saying, 'Eat not of it,' I will set the ground apart for your cultivation. In sorrow you shall eat from it every day of your life. It shall grow thorns and briars for you, but you shall have the plants of the field for food. In the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread, until you return to the ground from which you were taken. For dust you are, and to the dust you shall return." The man then gave to his wife the name of Eve, because she was the mother of all life. For Adam also and his wife the ever-living God made clothing of skins, and dressed them. The Lord God also said, "Now the man was like one of ourselves, acquainted with both good and evil. Therefore it may be that he will stretch out his hand, and take also of the tree of lives, and eat of it, and live forever." The ever-living God consequently expelled him from the Garden of Eden, in order to cultivate the ground from which he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he stationed at the east of the Garden of Eden the divine watchers, with the flaming sword to guard the path to the tree of lives. Chapter 4. The man afterwards knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and gave birth to Cain, and said, "I have been given a man from the ever-living." She afterwards gave birth to his brother Abel. And Abel became a shepherd of sheep, but Cain was a cultivator of the soil. And during the harvest time Cain brought some of the produce of the ground, as an offering to the ever-living. And Abel also brought of the best and the fattest of his sheep. And the Lord looked favorably upon Abel and his offering, but he did not regard Cain and his offering with favor. Cain therefore was very angry, and his countenance fell. Then the ever-living asked Cain, "Why are you angry, and why has your countenance fallen? If you do right, is there not approval? And if you do not do right, sin crouches at the door and awaits you, but you should conquer it." When Cain was afterwards talking with his brother Abel, and they were together in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and murdered him. The Lord accordingly asked Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" But he replied, "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?" The ever-living, however, answered, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries to me from the ground. Therefore you are cursed from the ground, which has opened her mouth to take in your brother's blood from your hand. When you cultivate the ground, it shall not yield up its wealth to you. You shall be a wanderer and a vagabond upon the earth." But Cain answered to the Lord, My punishment is heavier than I can bear. Since you drive me today out from off the face of this land, I shall be deprived of your presence, and be a wanderer and a vagabond upon the earth, and whoever meets me will kill me." But the ever-living replied, "Not so. Whoever kills Cain shall be punished sevenfold." Therefore the Lord put a mark upon Cain, so that he might not be attacked by any one who met him. Cain accordingly went out from the presence of the ever-living, and lived in a land of exile on the eastern side of Eden, where Cain knew his wife. And she conceived, and gave birth to Enoch, and he built a village, and named it after the name of his son Hanok. And to Hanok there was born Irad. And Irad produced Mehujael, and Mehujael produced Methusael, and Methusael produced Lemech. And Lemech took 2 wives for himself. The name of one was Adah, and the name of the other Zillah. And Adah gave birth to Jabal, who was the originator of tent dwellers with cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the originator of all those who play the harp and wind instruments. Zillah also gave birth to Tubal-Cain, the improver of every work in copper and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lemech, addressing his wives, said, "Adah and Zillah, listen to my voice. Wives of Lemech, listen to my speech. For I killed a man who wounded, and a youth who hurt me. If Cain had sevenfold protection, 77 should be that of Lemech." And Adam knew his wife again. She gave birth to a son, and named him Sheth. "For God," she said, "has given me another son in the place of Abel, who was murdered by Cain." And to Sheth a son was born, and he gave him the name of Enosh. Men then began to call upon the name of the ever-living. Chapter 5. This is the birth book of men. From the time that God created men, making them to represent God, constituting them male and female, giving them his blessing, and naming them by the name of mankind, upon the day of their creation. Adam, when he was 130 years old, produced a representative of himself, like his own shadow, and gave him the name of Sheth. And the lifetime of Adam, after the birth of Sheth, was 800 years, during which time sons and daughters were born to him. So the whole lifetime of Adam was 930 years when he died. And Sheth was 105 years old when Enosh was born to him. And Sheth, after the birth of Enosh, lived 807 years, and had sons and daughters born to him. And the whole lifetime of Sheth was 912 years, when he died. And Enosh lived 90 years when Kenan was born to him. And Enosh, after the birth of Kenan, lived 850 years, and had sons and daughters born to him. And all the lifetime of Enosh was 905 years, and he then died. And Kenan lived 70 years when Mahalalel was born to him. And Kenan, after Mahalalel was born to him, lived 830 years, and had sons and daughters born to him. So the whole lifetime of Kenan was 910 years, and he died. And Mahalalel, living until he was 65 years of age, had Jared born to him. And Mahalalel, after the birth of Jared, lived 830 years, and sons and daughters were born to him. And the whole lifetime of Mahalalel was 895 years, when he died. And Jared lived until he was 162 years of age, when Hanok was born to him. And after the birth of Hanok, Jared lived 800 years, and had sons and daughters born to him. And the whole lifetime of Jared was 962 years, and he died. And Hanok lived until the age of 65 years, when Methuselah was born to him. And Hanok walked with God after Methuselah had been born to him 300 years, and sons and daughters were born to him. And the whole lifetime of Hanok was 365 years. And Hanok walked with God, and he did not die, God having taken him to himself. And Methuselah, having lived until he was 187 years of age, had Lamech born to him. And Methuselah, after Lamech had been born to him, lived 782 years, having had sons and daughters born to him. And the whole lifetime of Methuselah was 969 years, and he then died. And Lamech lived until he was 182 years of age, when a son was born to him, to whom he gave the name of Noah, saying, He comforts in our labor, and in the trouble of our hands, upon the land which was denounced by the ever-living. And Lamech, after Noah was born to him, lived until the age of 595 years, sons and daughters being born to him. And the whole lifetime of Lamech was 777 years when he died. And Noah was 500 years old when Shem, Ham, and Japheth were born to him. Chapter 6. But when corrupt men increased upon the surface of the earth, and sons and daughters were born to them, then the sons of God admired the daughters of men who were beautiful, and they took to themselves wives from all they desired. Consequently the ever-living said, My spirit shall not call to man forever, for he is sinful flesh, but they shall have 120 years. The Nephilim were upon the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God came to the daughters of men, and they bore to them mighty men, who were men of renown of old. And the ever-living saw that the sin of man increased upon the earth, and that every effort of the thought of his heart was to promote sin every day. And the ever-living sighed for the doings of man upon earth, and it grieved his heart. The Lord therefore said, I will sweep away man whom I created from off the surface of the earth, from man to beast and reptile and birds of the skies, for I regret that I made them. But Noah found favor in the presence of the ever-living. The following are the genealogies from Noah. Noah was a good man. He was upright in his age. Noah walked with God. And Noah had 3 sons given to him, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. But the earth corrupted itself in the presence of God, and the earth was full of crime. And God looked upon the earth and saw its corruption, for all men had corrupted their way upon the earth. So God said to Noah, I decide to cut off all men from my sight, for the earth is full of crime from their presence. I will accordingly sweep them from the earth. Make therefore for yourself an ark of pitch pine. Make the ark with decks, and pitch it inside and outside with pitch. You shall make it thus. It shall be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits deep. Make a ventilating fan, fixed in a turret of a cubit, high above the upper deck, and connected with that, make an opening in the sides of the ark, on the 2nd and 3rd lower decks. You shall make 2nd and 3rd decks. For I myself will bring a downrush of waters upon the earth, to sweep off all beings possessing the breath of life from under heaven, all that move upon the land. Then I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall go into the ark yourself with your sons and your wife, and your sons' wives along with you. And from every animal of all kinds, 2 of each shall go into the ark to live with you. They shall be male and female, of birds by their species, and of animals by their species, and of reptiles moving in the field by their species. 2 of each shall accompany you, so as to preserve life. And you shall take with you all kinds of food which is eaten, and store it with you, and it shall be provision for yourself and for them. Noah accordingly did all that God commanded him. He accomplished it. Chapter 7. Afterwards the Lord said to Noah, Go yourself and all your household into the ark, for I have seen that you have been righteous in the face of this generation. Take with you of all clean cattle 7, male and female, and of beasts which are unclean 2 of them, a male and a female. Also from birds of the sky 7 male and female, so as to preserve a seed of life upon the surface of the land. Because at the end of 7 days I will pour onto the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and I will sweep away every creature that I made from off the surface of the ground. And Noah did all that the ever-living instructed him. Noah was 600 years old when the downrush of water came upon the earth. Noah with his children and wife, and the wives of his sons with them, went accordingly into the ark from the face of the waters of the deluge, with the clean cattle and with the unclean cattle, and with the birds and all that crawls upon the field, who came 2 by 2 to the ark, male and female, as God had directed Noah. When the 7 days had passed, then the downrush of water came upon the earth. In the 600th year of the life of Noah, in the 2nd month, on the 17th day of the month, on that day All the depths of the great ocean were heaved up, and the belts in the heavens were broken, and there was a downrush on to the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. At the close of that day, Noah, along with Shem, Ham, and Japheth, sons of Noah, and the wife of Noah, and the 3 wives of Noah's sons along with them, entered the ark. They themselves, and all the animals according to their species, and all the cattle according to their species, and all crawlers upon the earth by their species, and all birds by their species, every bird of every wing. There also came to Noah into the ark, 2 by 2, from all creatures which have animal breath. Thus they came male and female of all creatures, as God had directed them, and the Lord shut him inside. The downrush continued 40 days upon the earth, and the waters swelled and lifted up the ark and raised it from off the land. And the waters overwhelmed and rose greatly upon the earth, and the ark floated upon the surface of the waters. The waters overwhelmed the land, and covered all the hills and mountains which are below the skies. The waters covered the hills 15 cubits. And all animals that moved upon the land expired, with bird and cattle and wild animals, and every insect swarming upon the land, and every man. All which breathed the breath of animals in its nostrils, with all that was in the desert, died. Thus he swept away the whole that he had made upon the surface of the ground, from man to cattle, and reptile, and birds of the skies. Thus he swept them from off the earth. But Noah and those who were with him in the ark remained, and the waters overwhelmed the earth 150 days. The end of chapters 1 through 7 of Genesis. Recording by Mark Penfold.